Now that the Supreme Court has unanimously decided that hate speech is protected by the First Amendment, there is another push to stifle people's freedom of speech. And this isn't because people need to have an access to bad words. If you break it down simple enough, that's where it goes. But the point I'm trying to make, and I hope I made it in my other video when I talked about the Supreme Court unanimously deciding that hate speech is protected by the First Amendment, is that each individual person on this earth has a different concept of what hate speech is. So if you allow something to be illegal that is interpreted differently by each individual person, it's almost impossible to enforce. It's impossible to allow certain speech to be spoken. The very fact that this came up just after the Supreme Court, like not even a week ago, decided that hate speech is protected by the First Amendment, tells me they don't give a shit about what the Supreme Court finds or about the law itself. They have an agenda. They want to get rid of hate speech, and they don't care what the Supreme Court says. They're going to keep trying until they get the answer they want. Before we take a look at what's in the bill, let's take a look at who's sponsoring the bill. Kamala Harris, Democrat, introduced the bill April 5th, 2017, and it has been submitted into the Senate, considered and agreed to without any amendment and with a preamble by unanimous consent. So it has passed the Senate. The other people behind it are Marco Rubio, Dianne Feinstein, Susan Collins, and Tammy Duckworth. All information except text for Senate Resolution 118, a resolution condemning hate crime and any other form of racism, religious or ethnic bias, discrimination, incitement to violence, or animus targeting a minority in the United States. Isn't that already illegal, though? Do we need to pass another bill condemning hate crimes? And at the top here, you can see the purpose for this bill: crime prevention, crime victims, whatever the hell that means, criminal investigation, prosecution, interrogation, criminal justice information and records, hate crimes, law enforcement administration and funding, racial and ethnic relations, religion, and violent crime. In this latest summary, it says here, condemns hate crime and any other form of racism, religious or ethnic bias, discrimination, incitement to violence, or animus targeting a minority in the United States, affirms that the United States stands united in condemning hate and evil in all forms, rejects hate-motivated crime as an attack on the fabric of society and the ideals of pluralism and respect. Calls on federal law enforcement officials working with state and local officials to expeditiously investigate all credible reports of hate crimes and incidents and threats against minorities in the United States and bring the perpetrators to justice. Encourages the Department of Justice and other federal agencies to work to improve the reporting of hate crimes and to emphasize the importance of agencies' collection and reporting of data pursuant to federal law, and the development of an interagency task force led by the Attorney General to collaborate on the development of effective strategies and efforts to detect and deter hate crime in order to protect minority communities. Calls on the executive branch to continue to offer federal assistance that may be available for victims of hate crimes, and carry out safety and preparedness programs for religious institutions, places of worship, and other institutions that have been targeted because of their affiliation with any particular religious, racial, or ethnic minority in the United States. First thing I should point out is, aren't hate crimes already illegal in America? So why is this bill even around? The other thing to keep in mind is the rise of hate crime hoaxes after Donald Trump was elected. I am sure many of you are familiar. I have mentioned it in my videos many times. But as soon as Donald Trump was elected, many people on the left went out, started calling synagogues and making anti-Semitic remarks, calling them bomb threats. There were hundreds of hate crimes reported, and all over places like Reddit and social media, they insisted that this is a sign of the rise in right-wing violence. Then it turns out that a large percentage of those, if not full-on 70% upwards, like hundreds of them, have been debunked. You can go to hatecrimehoaxes.com. Literally, there's a whole website dedicated to this thing. We found out that a number of them were hoaxes, and then everyone shut up. Reddit didn't say anything. In fact, if you talk about it, guess what? You'll get banned from all the default subs. Doesn't that make you a little suspicious about this type of shit? And look, point blank, I think you are all with me. You shouldn't treat anybody differently based on what they are, but rather who they are. I care about agency and individualism, not about groupthink and whatever category a person appears to belong to. Hate crimes are bullshit anyway. They're just add-ons to somebody else's other crime. And I've seen a lot of cases where hate crimes were applied when there was no motivation of hate involved. So in my personal opinion, this is a waste of time. This is a potential threat to our freedoms. And these 5 people that decided to attack our free speech yet again, even though Supreme Court had just unanimously decided that hate speech is covered by the First Amendment, now we need to make hate crimes a little easier to define. It's all about this us versus them mentality, this cultural Marxism. Let's pit everyone against each other. That way it will destabilize the nation. Yuri Bezmenov is seeming more and more right as the days go on. But that's really all I got for this video. I mean, look, I understand that hate crimes are bullshit. They suck. But to continue to push a need of having hate laws in our country, it's horseshit. If you commit a crime against somebody, it shouldn't matter what your motivation was. Your committing of the crime is the crime, not the thought behind the crime. That's really all I got. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And seriously, fuck Marco Rubio, fuck Dianne Feinstein, and the other 3 people who signed on to this thing. They can suck my dick.